It's the pre-party with J. Cal.
We are professional wrestling.
I'm building an alliance.
You are tuned into
The absolute top of the mountain, the ultimate professional wrestling.
Alliance-wrestling.com.
Hey guys, it's Tuesday. That means it's the pre-party with J. Cal, a presentation of Alliance-Wrestling.com, your number one source for news and information for the National Wrestling Alliance. I'm your host, J. Cal, and guys, I am pumped up. I am jacked up. I'm excited. Are you guys excited? And, oh man. Today it's Tuesday. And of course, you know that means Prime Time Live. That means we're going to see some of the best action coming to you live from Thunder Studios in Long Beach, California. That is the Prime Time Live pay-per-view. Now, this week, I mean, it's a little bit different, guys. It's a little bit different. It's a little bit, there, how about some light? Is that better with some light? Things are a little bit different this week because we don't have an NWA match on this card. We got a couple other great matches, and we have a couple other things to talk about today. Wow, it's been kind of a crazy 7-day period. I mean, last week we saw what appears to be the beginning of a feud with the Pope, Elijah Burke, and our NWA television champion Zicky Dice, as Zicky Dice attacked Burke post-match after Burke and Watts won that tag team match, the main event last week, and Zicky Dice spitted. He put his saliva on Elijah Burke. Now, that's always been disrespectful and that's always been rude, but in the era of COVID-19, that's unacceptable. That's unreprehensible. That's blasphemy. You gotta think that there will be some repercussions here on Primetime Live for Zicky Dice, and you gotta think that the Elijah Express is gonna be the one delivering it. I'm seeing a lot of guys in the chat room, so I just want to say hello to Lamb, hello to Terry McDermott, hello Dave Scooby, hello NWA Gold. Appreciate you guys checking us out today. Had some technical difficulties. If you guys saw, we started a little bit late. Still trying to get this OBS to work directly with YouTube and everything else. It seems like it wants to create its own channel, so when I make one in advance, it doesn't really help very much. So, of course, I mean, it's Tuesday. Oh, before we get into Tuesday, I would be I would feel bad if I didn't mention that that tonight, in fact, right after this show, we're getting more content from the NWA. It's the top 5 matches of NWA Power. Now, this is cool. And this is a good way to get the audience excited for what's coming next. What's coming with NWA Power, because apparently that's what they are focused on, is a return to NWA Power. As of yet, there has been no announcements, no formal announcements on a venue, no formal announcements on when Power will start taping again. But I think it's at the very least, it's good. It's a good thing that we are seeing something being produced by the NWA. We're seeing some content being generated by the NWA, because it's been almost radio silent since the 10 pounds of gold, and before that we had 5 of the best moments of NWA Power. Now we're gonna have 5 of the best matches. I like the content. I like the fact that they're pushing out content, but there has to be a means to an end. There has to be a reason why they're doing this. And of course, if they're putting out content, you best believe they're getting ready to revamp, reproduce, restart, reignite, relaunch NWA Power. And if that doesn't get you excited, guys, I'm not sure what will. I'm not sure what's going to get you excited for that. So, moving right along from NWA Power, of course, this week we have Primetime Live. This is going to be a very compelling pay-per-view this week. Of course, there's number one, we have 2 title matches. In fact, the champions who defended on episode 1 of Primetime Live, sans Nick Aldis and the 10 pounds of gold, make their returns to defend their respective championships. That means we're going to have Mr. Alexander Hammerstone taking on Steve Tresario. And as I'm trying to get something here to work on my screen, hang on, bear with me, folks. Is that going to work? There it is. There's our boy Hammerstone. He returns to defend the West Coast Pro Wrestling Heavyweight Championship. So I think that's going to be a good match for the show tonight. And now I'm having difficulties with my setup here. There we go. Hammerstone and Tresario. So this should be a pretty good match. Steve Tresario is a guy that you guys definitely are probably more than likely unfamiliar with. Now, he's wrestled up and down the West Coast, wrestling for promotions like Championship Wrestling from Hollywood, of course, West Coast Pro Wrestling, some of the wrestling promotions up in Northern California, formerly the Vendetta Pro Wrestling. He's a very talented wrestler. He's going to be giving up size and strength to Hammerstone, obviously, but what he lacks in size and strength, he's going to make up for in speed and quickness, finesse, if you will. It's going to be definitely a size difference between the two, but make no mistake, I really genuinely believe that you're going to see a very competitive match, much like on the first episode where Hammerstone had his hands full with EJ Sparks. There was a lot of toying around with the competitor, but if Hammerstone doesn't take him seriously, he's going to find himself in a lot of trouble, because again, the finesse and the speed of Steve Tresario. I'm looking at some of your comments. Terry McDermott says he's having withdrawal from the NWA, and you're not the only one. I mean, there has been no formal announcement of when the next World's Heavyweight Championship match is going to be. There's been no formal announcement on really any of that stuff. Lamb says he's happy to have United Wrestling Network only pay-per-view for once, but Pope and Dice should work on videos for their feud in the meantime. Lamb, I agree 100%. This right now is the biggest thing that the NWA has going on outside of Thunder Rosa and her Destruction Tour, because there's no hype yet for what's going on with Nick Aldis and his next opponent. There is no opponent yet for Trevor Murdoch in that national championship, but on the United Wrestling Network Primetime Live pay-per-view stage, we got the beginnings of a feud between Elijah Burke and Zicky Dice, and I think it would behoove all parties involved, both Burke and Dice, both the NWA and United Wrestling Network, for them to start feeding into this machine to get some real hype for it, because the TV champion hasn't defended since March, and that was outside of an NWA ring. The TV champion will have his hands full with the Pope, and I'm definitely looking forward to that. But getting back to Primetime Live, we also have the women's match between Elena Black and Heather Monroe. Now, if you guys watch that collective pay-per-view this weekend, you know who Elena Black is, because she had a great outing. She certainly showcased who she is and what she's all about. Black is just about 2 years into the business. In such a short amount of time, she's made appearances for Black Label Pro, Impact, Shimmer, and many other promotions across the U.S. Black, in the same veins as Watts of last week, will be making her debut on AEW Dark tonight. So she's going to be at two places at once, if you will. And really, she was the talk of the town, the breakout star from Shimmer this past weekend in the collective pay-per-view. It'll be interesting to see how this match plays out. Heather Monroe has been one of the brightest spots for Championship Wrestling from Hollywood. She's one of the stars, honestly. She makes the program. Has that unique look and feel. She's a standout again from the Santino brothers. We mentioned the Santino brothers week in and week out, and that's because so much of their talent has now found its way on the United Wrestling Network Primetime Live series. And some of their other stars who aren't still wrestling on the independent circuit are working for like Ring of Honor or the WWE or MLW. Needless to say, the Santino brothers have a very vast and capable training staff and have made a lot of stars for the NWA. Excuse me, for the United Wrestling Network. Could be the NWA too. So that match should be good. Again, Heather Monroe. We first saw Heather Monroe debut on Primetime Live taking on Camille, and many people expected Camille just to destroy Heather Monroe. It wasn't the case. Heather Monroe was able to make that match competitive. Heather Monroe was able to make that match very, very competitive. And again, it's a byproduct of that Santino Brothers Wrestling Academy. They never, ever, ever look outclassed when they're in the ring. Camille is still learning the ropes, if you will. She's still gaining momentum. Now, she's tough. She's double tough. But she had difficulty putting away Heather Monroe on the first episode. Now, Heather Monroe on her second episode, her second appearance, will be in that role as the veteran taking on the rookie. So we'll see how that will work out. Moving on. The next match we have up is Fred Rosser. No off days. Fred Rosser taking on Chris Masters. Now, this is a matchup that some of you guys might be scratching your head going, well, where have these guys been? It's no secret that Fred Rosser, once leaving the WWE, took a much smaller workload when it comes to independent wrestling. In fact, just until recently, he made his debut on New Japan Strong, which is filmed out in California. That's filmed at Port Hueneme, the same place they film Championship Wrestling from Hollywood, same production team actually. So it's no surprise to see Fred Rosser enter the United Wrestling Network. And what are his plans? What are his intentions in the United Wrestling Network? We're going to see him taking on Chris Masters. Now, I got to see Chris Masters actually earlier this year and wrestle against Orange Cassidy, of all people. And it was a very competitive match, considering how Orange Cassidy wrestles, considering how Chris Masters wrestles. It was very much a clash of styles that ultimately saw Chris Masters win. And just kind of to point some things out about these two, Fred Rosser is a long time wrestler who's been involved with the NWA on and off throughout the years. He started with the NWA as under the name of Fred Sampson. He was a regular for the affiliates of Championship Wrestling from Hollywood back then. That was NWA Pro Wrestling East, Viva La Lucha down in San Diego and Baja, Mexico, Rising Phoenix Wrestling in Arizona. He had appeared on those shows. He defeated Glamour Boy Shane of IWA Puerto Rico in the first round of the Reclaiming the Gold World Heavyweight Title Tournament back in 2007. He would go on to lose in the second round quarterfinals against Brent Albright, who would end up being in the finals of that tournament. It would just be a year or two later, he would wind up in the WWE development, the Florida Championship Wrestling, which was the precursor to NXT. He and Titus O'Neil became WWE Tag Team Champions back in 2015 as the Primetime Players. So aptly titled the Primetime Players. Well, now one half of the Primetime Players will be here tonight on Primetime Live. And his departure from the WWE led to a handful of indies appearances, but his in-ring return in 2020 has been, like I said, New Japan Strong. He's teamed with Alex Zane to defeat Clark Connors and the DKC, but he also took a loss to PJ Black and Rocky Romero when he teamed with Mysterioso Jr. So he's been around. He's not new to the United Wrestling Network audience if you've been a longtime fan with Dave Marquez and the Championship Wrestling from Hollywood, NWA Hollywood Group. But this will be his debut on Primetime Live. And again, Chris Masters equally has been a long stature here in Southern California. He's been pretty active in 2020 despite COVID-19. I mean, he's got 13 matches under his belt. Masters wrestled in matches in Denmark, Qatar, Germany, and all over the United States. He defeated Killer Cross at PCW Ultra, which was kind of a big win for him. He has victories over, like I said, over Orange Cassidy. And he does have a few losses. He lost to Alexander Hammerstone, the West Coast Pro Wrestling champion, at a Future Stars of Wrestling event earlier in the year. He was also part of that Independent Expo that took place in North Richland Hills, Texas, the same place that our world's heavyweight champion Nick Aldis restarted after the pandemic pause. Masters was a product of the Ultimate University, which was the school out here in Southern California, and a former UPW, that's Ultimate Pro Wrestling standout. That's the same wrestling promotion and school that more or less discovered John Cena, Samoa Joe, Frankie Kazarian, helped establish Christopher Daniels, and many, many others. Kind of lost my thought there. Masters eventually would land in Ohio Valley Wrestling, where he would team with Brent Albright, the aforementioned Albright, to win the Ohio Valley Wrestling Tag Team titles. He would later land in the WWE, teaming with Carlitos, but never really kind of reaching the success that I think many people had anticipated for him. So tonight, I mean, this is kind of like a relaunch for Chris Masters and Fred Rosser, because now they're being seen by a larger American audience on Primetime Live. Both of these guys are former WWE stars, but haven't been seen in that same spotlight as they were just a few years ago. So it really will behoove both of these competitors to put in 110% tonight to make sure that this isn't the last time they're at Primetime Live. We already talked about Hammerstone. Let's see, who else? Oh, okay, the United Wrestling Network Television Championship. That's going to be a doozy as well. Because we have Dan Joseph, the United Wrestling Network Television Champion, taking on Dom Kubrick. Now, I know many of you guys don't have any idea who Dom Kubrick is, and that's why I'm here. I'm here to tell you who he is. I mean, we already mentioned the Santino Brothers Wrestling Academy, but I have to bring it up again because, again, they've been creating so much talent here in the Southern California area. Dom Kubrick is another one of these guys. We had mentioned previously that the 2019 Rookie of the Year award winner was Slice Boogie. Well, here we've got the 2018 Rookie of the Year award winner in Dom Kubrick. Kubrick, as previously mentioned, is part of the Santino Brothers Wrestling Academy. He's part of the same students, Heather Monroe, Slice Boogie, Rays, and so many more. Kubrick is a bit flamboyant, but he's very technically sound. He wrestles predominantly in this Los Angeles, San Diego area. He travels both for the Level Up Wrestling in San Diego, which is the B-Boys wrestling promotion. If you guys are familiar with SoCal wrestling, indie wrestling legend B-Boy, he works a lot there. He's spent a lot of time again with the Santino Brothers, working with AWS, and a few other promotions here in Southern California. This will make his United Wrestling Network debut. He's never appeared on Championship Wrestling from Hollywood, nor has he appeared on Championship Wrestling from Arizona. So this will be a first for him to be on Primetime Live, to be a part of what's going on here for United Wrestling Network Primetime Live. And of course, the TV champion, Dan Joseph. He defended his title on the first episode of Primetime Live against Levi Shapiro. That match had some pacing issues. I think they were trying to rush things to get to that main event, and I think that the match itself didn't have the opportunity it deserved to shine. But I do think that Dan Joseph is capable of much better. Now, Dan Joseph is actually one of the products of the United Wrestling Network training facility. He's one of the first graduates, and besides being the television champion, he's a former United Wrestling Network tag team champion with Pac 3. So I expect to see some good things for Dan Joseph tonight. He has victories over EJ Sparks, Slice Boogie, and 2 wins over Levi Shapiro. So, I mean, as of right now, he is the face of the United Wrestling Network. He's the TV champion, so we'll see what comes up next for him. The match that I think is going to steal everybody's attention, it's going to steal everybody's eyeballs, is going to be a rematch from the New Japan Strong weekly series. That you have to have New Japan World to see these matches. You have to be subscribed to New Japan World. But with that relationship, like I mentioned, the David Marquez Studios is the one that's actually shooting these New Japan of USA shows. The Lions Break, they've done they did the tournament. It's going to be good, and I really think that Clark Connors making his Primetime Live debut against Danny Limelight, stand out of the show, this one's going to steal it. This one's going to be the match that everyone's going to be talking about. I kid you not. Clark Connors has been a member of the Championship Wrestling from Hollywood. So again, if you guys are watching Championship Wrestling from Hollywood, you're familiar with this guy. He's made his presence known, teaming on again, off again with Dickie Meyer and working different matches. But he's a product, again, of the New Japan USA Dojo that's headed up by Shibata. The same class that brought Carl Fredericks is the same class that brought Clark Connors. And he's been a part of the New Japan shows that have aired here in the United States, the tournaments, the traveling show, the tours that they did last year, part of the New Japan USA and Ring of Honor events. Plus, he's been in Japan, again, working for New Japan Pro Wrestling, often teaming with Carl Fredericks and Alex Zane as part of that dojo class. But he really has been breaking out, and I really think you're going to see some good things for Clark Connors very, very soon. And I think him appearing tonight against the ring, against Danny Limelight Rivera, I think you're going to see some great wrestling action. Again, this is a rematch from last Friday's New Japan Strong show. And with Danny Limelight, I mean, we've spoken so much about him in such a positive fashion. He did an interview with me earlier in the year, that right when COVID kind of started, when the wrestling shows kind of took a break, and we were talking about the future and what he had planned, and how he started working with New Japan USA, started working with Championship Wrestling from Hollywood again, and how things were starting to open up for him. With this Primetime Live, he's been one of the breakout stars. A lot of people have noticed his in-ring ability, of course. Last week, he and Pablo Esco had their debut in defeat against the Wolf's Daddies, but even in defeat, Danny Limelight's looked good. He wrestled Kevin Martinson a few episodes back, and again, looked terrific in that match. So I'm really excited to see what he and Clark Connors will bring to the table tonight, and I think that's going to be the match that really steals the show tonight. So I think, all in all, this show is shaping up to look really, really good. I think we're all going to be very much happy with this, at least some of these matches. Now I look at some of your comments, and I see that Lamb mentioned something I wanted to get to, and I was going to talk about that. Gosh, let me get to it, Lamb. We were going to get to the United Wrestling Network did in fact have a big announcement over the weekend that there will be the creation of a United Wrestling Network Women's Division Championship. Now this is kind of exciting because over the course, gosh, I've been following Championship Wrestling from Hollywood, NWA Hollywood, New Japan USA, whatever you want to call what Dave Marquez has done for the last 20 years. I've been following it. And although they've featured women's matches in the past, they never created a championship title for the women. Now, on occasion, they have featured women's championship matches. Dave was one of the few guys that actually booked Awesome Kong, who was then the NWA World's Women's Champion. I mean, she used to beat the heck out of Candice LeRae on some of those early Dave Marquez NWA Pro Wrestling Showcase shows. But he would also book Jazz to take on Heather Monroe. He booked Allison Kay to take on Heather Monroe, and booked Barbie Hayden to take on Heather Monroe in China as part of that huge show that took place in Wenzhou, China. So seeing that the women's division has kind of been growing with talents like Lacey Ryan, your Future Stars of Wrestling Women's Champion, Viperous, who made an impact last week on the pay-per-view, of course Heather Monroe, CC Chanel, and then other aspiring stars who've been making their way to Primetime Live like Nicole Savoy, Priscilla Kelly, and of course talents like Allison Kay, and perhaps even Thunder Rosa. The division, the women's wrestling on Primetime Live in the United Wrestling Network has been growing, and it would be awesome to see more talent, more high-profile women's wrestlers coming to Primetime Live. And who knows, maybe we might see some cross-promotion between the NWA, United Wrestling Network when it comes to that women's wrestling, or maybe a promotion like Mission Pro, Thunder Rosa's promotion down in Buda, Texas. Maybe they could be help supply some talent to this women's division. But again, a lot of moving pieces, a lot of things happening. One thing we didn't even talk about yet is that the United Wrestling Network has an announcement. It's 8 years in the making. A lot of people are speculating on what it could be, what it might mean, and I'm kind of curious as to what you guys think it might mean. If you have an idea of what that might mean, leave a comment in the below. Leave a comment down here. Tell me what you think is going to be that big announcement. Some people have suggested that it is a new partnership with another wrestling promotion, and if that's the case, I have no idea who it would be. I mean, I could speculate that it might be a working relationship with maybe like an MLW or Ring of Honor, but nothing has been intimated to say that as of yet. Lamb thinks it's going to be a United Wrestling Network United World Champion. And that would be kind of a big deal. We'll see. Just reading some more of your comments. Lamb also mentioned that he hopes that the TV title match is not a disaster like the one with Levi Shapiro. I mean, it's hard because a lot of people consider me a United Wrestling Network apologist. I'm an avid David Marquez supporter. I support the NWA. And that first episode, although it had some good moments, that wasn't one of them. And I know that Dan Joseph is capable of a lot more. We know Levi Shapiro is capable of a lot more. And I really felt like that match just timing, pacing, I don't know what happened, but it didn't come out the way that I think either competitor would have hoped it would uh, roll out. And so we'll see. Maybe tonight we'll get something different. Something else I noticed just now is that there's no tag team matches scheduled for tonight. So last week we had 3 tag team matches. This week we have 0. I don't understand the pacing, but maybe they have something planned. Woodland Goblin says, I also think the announcement will be the United Wrestling Network World Heavyweight Championship. And I mean, again, it's time. It certainly is time. They've never had a bigger reach than they do now between the 3 promotions of Championship Wrestling from Hollywood, Championship Wrestling from Arizona, Memphis Championship Wrestling, and then of course their affiliation with Future Stars of Wrestling and West Coast Pro Wrestling. That would be the time to create a world's champion. But then they also have this allegiance with the NWA. I could see them featuring 2 world champions because I could see them featuring 2 television champions. I could see them featuring regional specific champions like Hammerstone. So I don't think that there would be too much of a conflict of interest. And I mean, look, there's some great talent here in United Wrestling Network on Primetime Live. You've got the likes of Chris Dickinson, who just went the distance, right? He just went the distance with AEW champion Jon Moxley over the weekend at the Josh Barnett's Bloodsport. He also has been wrestling down in Mexico with AAA. There's opportunities. There's guys like Carl Fredericks, who, I mean, this guy, not only has he been the talk of the town for New Japan Strong, but he literally is still wrestling matches in New Japan Pro Wrestling. Could he win the United Wrestling Network championship and take it across the world as part of the New Japan Pro Wrestling? I mean, it's certainly an opportunity. I just lost the camera. Lamb says, if we crown a United Wrestling champion, we would see more United World title matches than NWA World title matches. And that's true, and that's okay. And that's okay because this has always been a collective, right? This has always been a joint effort with the NWA and United Wrestling Network. And the NWA World Champion is certainly one of the most prestigious championships in all of professional wrestling. Its lineage goes back to Lou Thez. Its lineage goes back to, I just drew a blank. We'll just say Ric Flair. We'll say Dory Funk Jr. We'll say Gene Kiniski. We'll say Dusty Rhodes. We'll say Harley Race. We'll say Dan the Beast Severn. We'll say AJ Styles. We'll say Scrap Iron Adam Pearce. We'll say Rob Conway. We'll say The Great Muta. We'll say Barry Windham. I mean, gosh, there's been 100 great NWA World Champions. And there'll never be another NWA World Heavyweight Championship. But with the NWA focusing on its return to power, you're not going to see a lot of World Champion matches on Primetime Live anyways. The NWA's focus, once Power is rebooted, once it gets back to going, its primary focus will be to focus on that. Now, that doesn't mean we won't still see matches featuring, NWA titles on Primetime Live, but they're going to focus on their content. They're going to focus on their service, if it's a pay window or not behind a pay window, if it's on YouTube or if it's on Fight TV. The NWA will focus on NWA Power, and I still hope to see matches between the two. Maybe we'll see talents from United Wrestling Network appear on Power and vice versa. But yes, ultimately, if the announcement is true, if there is a United Wrestling Network World Championship in place, yeah, I think even without that title, you're going to see less NWA Championship matches once NWA Power starts running again. I mean, that's their primary focus. Woodland Goblin reminded me of Orville Brown. That's honestly the name I was trying to think of when I caught my hiccup there. Woodland Goblin says, I still can't believe Gary, and this is the NWA podcast, missed the United Wrestling announcement of the new UWN Ladies Championship when they did the news on Sunday night. Yeah, you know, he even mentioned it was a slow news day, but yeah, I mean, it can fly underneath the radar if you're not looking for it. I know that, you know, Gary and company are more geared towards the NWA, and of course they've been focusing a lot of attention on Mission Pro Wrestling, and they've been following the NWA stars, whether they're working in Bloodsport or elsewhere. And so this one kind of flew under the radar. But yes, the ladies, the ladies championship, the United Wrestling Network World's Women's Championship, I think is going to be very significant, considering again the talent that has been accumulating here in Primetime Live. And you're seeing a lot more names and a lot more talent appearing here. Of course, I mean we've got Fred Rosser and Chris Masters, former WWE talents. I think as we progress, you're going to see more and more of these unsigned, free agents, unrestricted free agents who are available to compete on Primetime Live. I think you're going to see more of this. Nick Aldis kind of kicked it off with he and Miracle Mike Bennett, who is not signed to wrestle anywhere right now, kicked off what will be hopefully a long series of the best talent, the best matches on Primetime Live every Tuesday at 9 o'clock Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific. And the thing about it too is if NWA Power returns in its current format, in the way it was still originally produced, if they keep the same formula and that show airs at 6:05 Eastern, right? There's not even going to be a conflict because you can sit there and watch NWA Power. And when that's over, after an hour, 7:05 rolls around, you're eating dinner, you're hanging out with the family, whatever it is. Then at 10:05 or 10 o'clock, boom, you're watching Primetime Live. It's all open for you. You don't really have to choose. So I'm just checking more of your comments. Terry McDermott says there will never be another 10 pounds of gold. And Terry, you're 100% right. No disagreement here. As somebody who is a very big fan of the 10 pounds of gold, there's no championship that, in my mind, can push this to the back. There's nobody that's going to put Baby in the corner. It just won't happen. But the United Wrestling Network is not a member of the NWA. There are no NWA members at this point. Mission Pro Wrestling features Thunder Rosa as the Women's World's Champion because she is the World's Women's Champion and she's the owner of Mission Pro. But if she lost the title tomorrow, there's no guarantee that title would still appear on Mission Pro Wrestling. And as of the same way, if Nick Aldis decides that he doesn't want to wrestle in United Wrestling Network anymore, then you're not going to see the title in United Wrestling Network. The NWA chooses to not bring that title to Primetime Live, then it won't be on Primetime Live, regardless of what titles are created here on Primetime Live, which titles are created in the United Wrestling Network. But this is something that's been in play for many, many years. In fact, if you guys know Dave Marquez and you followed his story for a long time, they've actually had that championship created and stolen. That title is featured on other programming. If you guys go watch Fight TV and look up Paragon Pro Wrestling, that was the original concept for the United Wrestling Network World's Heavyweight Championship. They since had to redo it, but that was the original title that they were going to use. And they had plans that they wanted to work with, Finn Balor before he signed with the WWE, Carl the Machine Gun Anderson before he signed with the WWE. There was talks that when Cesaro's contract was up, he was supposed to get an opportunity to wrestle for the Championship Wrestling from Hollywood, and that didn't come out to play because he ended up re-signing his contract. There was talks about Samoa Joe, but again, he locked into his contract. All these huge, talented names have always been associated, not always, let me rephrase that, had been rumored to be a part of what this title was going to be and what it was supposed to mean, but that opportunity never came to the forefront. It just never panned out. So it'll be interesting to see what happens next. But I can tell you right now, Primetime Live, 4 more episodes. We're on episode number 5. If you bought the bundle, you saw the price went up a little bit. It's $24.99 as opposed to $23.99. But Still seeing some really good action, and there's still supposed to be more NWA matches coming. I mean, we at least know that the television championship should be defended at some point. I mean, maybe it won't, but I mean, the storyline was kind of created in primetime. You think they would continue on with that? So we're getting close to that 40-minute mark. Now, again, when this is over, guys, I do encourage you all to go to the youtube.com/ the NWA channel, not the NWA channel, but youtube.com/ NWA, and check out the content that they're producing, because, again, if power is to come back, if you guys want power, you're going to have to demand it. You're going to have to show William Patrick Corgan that you're still invested, that there's still a reason to do this. So go out there and watch that product and tweet about it and tell them all how much you like it, because that'll hopefully get the ball rolling with NWA Power and its return. But we talked about it last week on the Alliance blog podcast, the Alliance guys, and we talked about it. Would you pay for an NWA Power? Would you pay for what you previously got for free? I'm of the ilk that I don't mind paying for wrestling as long as it's quality wrestling. There were a lot of things that I did not like about NWA Power, and I was very vocal about that. Like 60-year-old men holding the tag team titles seemed like a bit ridiculous, if you ask me. It seemed a very low rent, if you ask me, to get a cheap pop from a crowd. I don't think in long term that was a good booking idea. I didn't like the whole commercials that were a little on the creepy side with Austin Idol and oh god, what was his name? Anyways, I thought those were a little bit out of place and didn't really fit in. I felt like there was a lot of too much recapping on those shows. If I had to pay for that, I wouldn't have wanted to pay much. What are your guys' thoughts? Y'all got quiet. Ultimately, at the end of the day, I don't mind paying for wrestling when it's a product that I enjoy. One of the reasons why I was comfortable with buying into Primetime Live is because David Marquez is a promoter who I've trusted over the years, who has brought matches that I find entertaining, has found talent that has always seemed to rise to the top, and so far I haven't been lost with guys like Chris Dickinson, who really brought it. I feel like I've gotten my money's worth with guys like Chris Dickinson. I feel like I get my money's worth when I see tag teams like La Bodega versus the Wolf's Daddies. I feel like I get my money's worth when I see a match with Slice Boogie and Carl Fredericks. I feel like I get my money's worth when I see a match with Mike Bennett and Nick Aldis, or Priscilla Kelly and Thunder Rosa. I really feel like United Wrestling Network has brought on a level of value that I'm comfortable with paying. And if you don't like what you're seeing, of course, I wouldn't suggest keep paying for it. If you're not happy with what Primetime Live is, then absolutely find something else. I mean, because there's so many options out there. There's so many shows and different opportunities for you to watch them. I mean, they did the collective this weekend with Game Changer Wrestling, Shine, Big Iffy's Gay Brunch, the Blood Sport. Now, I'm not saying that you have to watch all that stuff, but there was an opportunity to watch at least 4 or 5 different wrestling shows with an audience this weekend. There's content out there. The NWA has to really, again, it's almost like they're starting over. There's been such a lull from January 25th, the last time they taped an NWA Power, till October 13th. There's been exactly one NWA sanctioned World's Heavyweight Championship match. Well, I guess technically 2. The Independent Expo, which you can actually go online and see that still. If you go to Fight, it's still available for purchase. So there's been 2 NWA World Championship matches since January 25th. There's been about 4 or 5 Women's Championship matches since the 25th. There's been 1 National Championship since the 25th. And forget about the tag team titles, because the NWA has. So they're going to have to almost relaunch Power Season 2, Power 2.0, whatever you want to call it, in a completely different way because they still need to grab these eyeballs again. They have to convince the 200,000 plus people who were watching it, a year ago, that it's worth coming back to watch again. And if you're a fan of the NWA, that's not a hard sell. Give me Nick Aldis and give me some of the best challenges that are out there, and I'm going to be invested. And yeah, is the roster going to look different? Absolutely, but that's a byproduct of what Billy Corgan said all along, that they would have some key players who would always be there, and then they would cycle talent in and out. So Eddie Kingston being gone isn't a surprise. Colt Cabana, Ricky Starks, Tasha Steelz, all these talents being gone is not surprising. That was the MO all along. You'll see new faces in. Maybe you'll see guys like Watts, or maybe you'll see Heather Monroe, or maybe you'll see Priscilla Kelly, or maybe you'll see guys like the Wolf Zaddies. But all in all, the NWA Power, the model, if it stays the same, it's not going to be hard to re-grab those NWA fans. I feel where they're going to struggle is capturing fans of professional wrestling who gave it a shot early on and now have been without for 9+ months. Are they still going to be there when they're ready to return? The crowd was too loud during the interviews promos on Power. Woodland Goblin, I kind of agree with you, but according to guys like Nick Aldis, I mean, that's been part of the formula. That was part of what they liked about the show. They think that was what made that show successful. That's also the reason why they've been hesitant to relaunch the show, because they knew they weren't going to be able to have an audience in that Georgia Public Broadcasting Studios. So, anyways, we're running out of time, guys. Oh, Terry McDermott says they may need to be free at first to get their fans back. Terry, I think there's a way that they can do a hybrid of having a paid show while offering parts of that show for free to kind of whet people's beaks to get them back into it. Billy can call me for my ideas all day, every day, but they could do dark matches that feature clips from a paid show, and I think that would gravitate people to get back into it. There's no reason why you need to give out a free World's Heavyweight Championship match or a free Women's World Championship match, but maybe you offer a television title match for free with clips from the other show, or the talents that are new to the program. I mean, they never even aired the match that had Lindsay Snow, the American Kaiju, on their Circled Squared. If that were something that could work into place, again, you're right. I do think they need to offer something for free. I think that's a good business model, because what they'll get back when it comes to YouTube views and goodwill with the audience is, I think that's important. But then doing a model similar to what now Primetime Live is, also I don't think would hurt either. Or, maybe they offer some sort of subscription where they offer, the show as it is, but then do a weekly 10 pounds of gold or bi-weekly. Not exactly sure, but I do know that I agree with you, Terry. I think that putting the entire show behind a pay window and expecting the fans to still be there is a recipe for disaster. I think they need to figure out a nice little balance where you have some of your premium matches available for purchase and your less than premium matches available for free content for people who are watching the show. But we're running out of time. Guys, thank you so much for being with us this week. Again, always one of the highlights of the week for me is to spend time with you guys, the hashtag NWA fam. And definitely appreciate you guys spending some time with me today and being a part of the show. Of course, we are on all social media at the Alliance Blog. That's Facebook, that's Twitter, that's Instagram, that's Twitch, that's YouTube, that's TikTok. We're available across all platforms there at the Alliance Blog. And also, I want to say thank you guys for checking out the show. Please hit a thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't done so already. And if you even leave a comment below, I would greatly appreciate that. That helps us out with the algorithm on YouTube. That helps us get seen by more people. If you just leave a comment either here or on Facebook or on Twitch, and again, that really helps get our views up and gets our content out there. Now, right now, close out of this window, head over to the NWA YouTube page and watch the top 5 moments of 5 matches of NWA Power Then after Primetime Live, come back to YouTube to check out This is the NWA podcast with my boys Gary Horn, Dr. Rob Stinson, and Will Martin, as they will break down the pay-per-view that you guys are watching tonight. Until next time, guys, I'll see you on Thursday with the Alliance Guys podcast. I hope you guys will join us then. We'll see you guys at the matches, and good night now.